While repairing her armor, the alien queen pulled me near. Don't be shy. Human HFY, the flagship of the Viorlian Empire, drifted in silent orbit above a dead moon, its massive hull scarred by fresh burns. The battle was already over, but its echo still lived in the air, damaged systems humming, guards moving fast through wide metal halls, and officers speaking in low, careful voices. Everyone aboard knew the truth, even if no one said it aloud. The alien queen had been injured. Not badly, but enough to anger her. Queen Zyra of the Viorlian Empire stood alone in the private armor chamber near the ship's core. She was tall, even by her species' standards, her skin marked with faint, glowing patterns that showed her royal bloodline. Her ceremonial battle armor still covered most of her body, dark and elegant, grown from living metal bonded to her nerves. The armor was old, older than most empires, and it had never failed her before, until now. A long crack ran across one of the chest plates. It was small, almost invisible to the untrained eye, but Zyra felt it clearly. The armor hummed unevenly, sending dull pain through her body with every breath. Her jaw tightened. This should not be happening. Outside the chamber, a group of high-ranking engineers waited nervously. They were the best the Empire had, brilliant minds from many conquered worlds, yet none of them dared to step forward. The Queen had already dismissed them once, her voice cold and final. "They do not understand this armor," she had said. "They fear it, and they fear me." Now they waited again, hoping she might change her mind. She did not. Instead, Queen Zyra activated a secure channel and spoke a single name. "Bring the human." The order shocked everyone who heard it. Elias Ward was in a lower engineering bay when the summons arrived. He was kneeling beside an open panel, hands deep inside a damaged conduit, calmly adjusting power flow with a small handheld tool. Around him, other human technicians worked quietly. Humans were new allies of the Empire, not fully trusted, often underestimated. They were usually assigned support roles, repairs, logistics, problem-solving. Elias did not mind. He preferred machines to politics. When the message reached him, he froze. "Human technician Elias Ward," the automated voice said, "you are ordered to report to the Queen's private armor chamber immediately." The bay went silent. One of the other technicians stared at him. That's impossible." "No one goes in there." Elias slowly stood up, wiping his hands on a cloth. His heart was beating faster, but his face remained calm. He had worked under pressure before, collapsing stations, reactor failures, life-or-death repairs. This was different, but fear would not help. "Guess I'm going," he said simply. An escort of elite guards met him halfway through the ship. They were tall, armored, weapons ready, eyes sharp. None of them spoke. Elias followed, steps steady, mind focused. He replayed everything he knew about Viorlian armor. Very little, honestly. Most of it was secret, but he knew materials, he knew systems, and more importantly, he knew how to listen to machines. The door to the armor chamber opened without a sound. Heat rolled out first, mixed with the faint metallic scent of living alloy. The room was vast and circular, filled with soft, glowing light. In the center stood Queen Zyra. She turned slowly as Elias entered. Up close, her presence was overwhelming, not because of size alone, but because of control. Every movement was precise, every breath measured. Her eyes, golden and sharp, locked onto him. Elias felt the weight of centuries of war, rule, and command behind that gaze. He bowed as protocol demanded, keeping his eyes lowered. "You may look at me, human," she said. Her voice was calm, deep, carrying quiet authority. Elias raised his head. "You were repairing external plating during the battle," she continued. "You noticed the resonance shift before my sensors did." Elias nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty, the vibration pattern changed. It didn't match normal damage." Most beings would have stopped there. Elias didn't. "It sounded strained," he added carefully, "like the system was compensating for something deeper." The chamber was silent. Zyra studied him closely. Many had spoken to her with fear. Many had spoken with flattery. Few spoke with honesty. "Approach," she ordered. Elias hesitated for only a second before stepping forward. He stopped several feet away, respectful, hands at his sides. "Look at the armor," she said. He did. The crack was faint, hidden beneath decorative patterns, but once he focused, he saw more. Tiny distortions in the glow, micro-delays in response. The armor was not just damaged, it was stressed. "May I get closer?" Elias asked. The guards tensed, weapons shifting slightly. Zyra's eyes never left him. Then slowly she nodded. "Do not be shy, human," she said. "If you are here, you will do your work properly." She stepped closer to him instead. Elias felt his breath catch, but he stayed still. The queen was now within arm's reach. He could hear the armor's low hum, feel its uneven rhythm through the air. Carefully, he raised one hand, stopping inches from the cracked plate. "May I touch it?" he asked. Another pause. "Yes." His fingers made contact. The armor was warm, almost alive beneath his touch. He closed his eyes briefly, focusing on vibration, response, feedback. This was not so different from human tech, he realized. Different materials, yes, but systems were systems. "This armor is bonded to you," he said quietly. "Very deeply." "It has been since my coronation," Zyra replied. "It has never failed." "It's not failing," Elias said. "It's tired." That word echoed strangely in the chamber. "Tired," she repeated. "Yes," he said. "It's been pushing beyond its limits for too long." Reinforcing damage instead of healing it, holding everything together through force. Zyra's jaw tightened slightly. "That armor has carried me through wars that destroyed worlds." "I believe that," Elias said, "but even the strongest systems need relief. Right now it's locking stress inside instead of releasing it." The queen was silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "Can you repair it?" "Yes," Elias said honestly, "but not the way your engineers would." "And how would a human do it?" Elias met her gaze. "We'd loosen it first." That was the wrong answer. The guards moved instantly, weapons raised. "Enough," Zyra said sharply. They froze. "You would weaken my armor?" she asked, her voice dangerous. "Temporarily," Elias replied, choosing his words carefully. "To make it stronger in the long run. Right now, it's protecting you by hurting you." Another long silence followed. Zyra looked down at the cracked plate, then back at the human standing before her, unarmed, unafraid, telling her a truth no one else dared to say. "You risk much by speaking this way," she said. "I know," Elias replied, "but if I don't, the armor will keep breaking, and one day it won't stop." Slowly, Queen Zyra reached up and disengaged a locking seal near her collar. A soft mechanical sound echoed through the chamber as part of the armor loosened. Gasps came from the guards. "Begin," she said. Elias stepped closer, hands steady, mind fully focused. He had no idea how this would end. But for the first time since stepping into the chamber, he felt certain of one thing. This was not just about repairing armor. This was the moment humanity would be seen. The chamber changed the moment the first seal released. The steady hum of the armor shifted into a lower, uneven tone, like a deep breath held for too long and finally let go. Queen Zyra did not move, but Elias felt it through his fingertips as clearly as if the armor were a living thing. The glow along the chest plate dimmed slightly, then steadied. The guards stood frozen, weapons still raised but uncertain. No one had ever seen the queen loosen her armor by choice. For them, this was like watching a mountain crack open. Elias forced himself to stay calm. He did not rush. Rushing was how systems failed. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "I need a bit more space, just a few steps." Zyra studied him. Up close, she could see small details she had missed before, the faint lines of exhaustion around his eyes, the careful way he held his hands, as if he were always aware of how easily things could break. She stepped back once. The guards reacted instantly. "Hold," she commanded. They obeyed, though tension filled the room like static. Elias exhaled slowly and activated his wrist tool. A thin holographic field projected over the armor, mapping vibration patterns and energy flow. The readings made his brow furrow. The stress was worse than he expected. "This core," he said, pointing near the center of her chest without touching, "it's been overclocked for years." "It was designed that way," Zyra replied, "to respond instantly in battle." "Yes," Elias said, "but instant response means constant strain." Humans learned that lesson the hard way. Fast systems burn out if they're never allowed to rest. The word again, rest. Zyra felt something twist in her chest that had nothing to do with pain. She had ruled since her youth. There had been no rest, not for her, not for her empire. "You speak as if armor and rulers are the same," she said. Elias hesitated, then nodded. "Sometimes they are." For a moment he thought she might order him removed. Instead, she surprised him. "Continue." Carefully, Elias adjusted the field, isolating the damaged area. The armor reacted immediately, tightening slightly as if resisting him. Sweat formed on his brow. "It doesn't like this," he murmured. The queen raised an eyebrow. "My armor has never had opinions." Elias gave a small, respectful smile. "All complex systems do. They just express them differently." He shifted his stance and changed approach, lowering the tool's output instead of increasing it. The armor's resistance eased, the hum smoothing out. "There," he said, "it responds better to patience." Zyra watched closely. She had commanded fleets, crushed rebellions, and faced creatures that could tear starships apart. Yet watching a human calm her armor with gentle adjustments unsettled her in a way violence never had. "You are not afraid," she observed. "I am," Elias said honestly. "But fear doesn't mean stopping, it just means being careful." That answer stayed with her. Minutes passed, then more. The crack in the chest plate slowly sealed, the living metal flowing like liquid under controlled guidance. The pain in Zyra's body dulled, replaced by a strange lightness she had not felt in years. One of the senior guards shifted uneasily. "Your Majesty, this is taking too long. The Council—" "The Council can wait," Zyra said sharply, "or they can choke on their impatience." Silence returned. As Elias worked, he noticed something else, small fluctuations in the energy pattern that didn't match damage or age. He leaned closer, frowning. "This isn't just stress," he said. Zyra's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "There's interference," Elias said. "Like the armor is constantly countering something. External commands maybe, or internal overrides." "That is impossible," she replied. "The armor obeys only me." Elias swallowed. "Then someone designed it to argue with you." The room felt colder. Zyra's mind raced. The armor had been gifted during her coronation by the High Artificers, a sacred order long since dissolved. She had trusted it as she trusted her own blood. "Can you be certain?" she asked quietly. Elias adjusted the display, projecting the data outward so even the guards could see the uneven pattern. "It's subtle," he said, "but it's there. The armor isn't just protecting you, it's limiting you, slowly." One of the guards gasped. Zyra felt anger rise, hot and sharp, but beneath it something else, betrayal. "Why?" she demanded. Elias shook his head. "Control, maybe, or fear. Humans do this sometimes, too. We build safety systems that slowly turn into cages." The word hit her harder than any weapon. Cage. She looked down at the armor that had defined her reign, the symbol of her power, her protection, her prison. "What happens if we remove the core?" she asked. The guards reacted instantly. "That cannot be allowed. It would leave you exposed. It is forbidden." Zyra raised one hand. Silence fell again. Elias chose his words with care. "If we remove it completely, the armor shuts down. But if we rebuild the core, simplify it, give control fully back to you, it could become something better." "And during this rebuilding?" Zyra asked. "You would be vulnerable," Elias said, "for a short time." The queen closed her eyes. Vulnerability was not something the galaxy allowed her. When she opened them, her gaze was clear. "Do it," she said. The guards stared at her in shock. "Your Majesty, do it." No one dared argue further. Elias nodded slowly. "I'll need assistance, human assistance." Zyra turned to the guards. "Allow his people into this chamber. Any who interfere will answer to me." Moments later, two human technicians entered cautiously, eyes wide at the sight before them. Elias briefed them quickly, voice calm, hands never stopping. Together they worked. The core disengaged with a deep, resonant sound that echoed through the chamber. The armor's glow faded to a faint outline. Zyra felt suddenly lighter and colder. Her knees weakened slightly. Elias noticed instantly. "Sit," he said, then caught himself. "Please," she allowed it. As the armor powered down further, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. "Unauthorized movement in the inner ring," a voice announced. "Security breach." Zyra stood despite the weakness. "They sensed it." "Who?" Elias asked. "Those who benefit from my silence," she replied. The guards moved to defensive positions. Outside the chamber, distant weapons' fire echoed. Elias looked at the exposed queen, the partially dismantled armor, and the chaos closing in. "We're not done," he said. Zyra met his eyes. "Then we finish," she replied. The alarms echoed through the flagship like a warning heartbeat. Red light washed over the armor chamber, turning the smooth metal walls into something harsh and dangerous. The calm that had filled the room only moments before vanished. Queen Zyra stood without her full armor for the first time in centuries. The living metal still covered parts of her body, but the core was exposed, silent and dark. The faint glow that once marked her as untouchable was gone. She felt the ship's vibration through the floor, felt the cold air on her skin, felt how real and fragile her body suddenly was. Elias felt it too, not the physical weakness, but the weight of the moment. If this failed, the most powerful ruler in this region of the galaxy would fall while standing beside a human technician with grease on his hands. Weapons fire sounded closer now. "Security teams are falling back," a voice shouted over the intercom. Multiple hostile groups moving toward the inner ring. Zyra's eyes narrowed. They came prepared. The guards around her formed a tight circle, weapons aimed at every entrance. They looked tense, uncertain. They were trained to fight beside an armored queen, not protect an exposed one. Elias stepped closer to the open armor framework, hands moving quickly but carefully. "We need time," he said. 5 minutes, maybe less if nothing goes wrong." Zyra gave a short, sharp laugh. "In my experience, things always go wrong." She straightened her posture despite the weakness. Even without the armor's power, she still carried authority like a force of nature. "Then we buy you time," she said. Outside the chamber, the sound of heavy boots thundered closer. The first explosion rocked the corridor beyond the sealed doors. Dust fell from the ceiling. One of the human technicians flinched. Elias did not. He adjusted the rebuilt core, smaller and simpler than the original. Human design favored clarity over dominance, control over force. The new system would respond only to Zyra's direct neural signals, not hidden commands buried deep in code. "Almost there," he muttered. Another blast hit the doors. The metal bent inward slightly. "They will breach," a guard said. Zyra glanced at Elias. "How long?" 2 minutes, he replied. "One if I take risks." "Do it," she said instantly. Elias hesitated. "It could damage the armor permanently." She did not hesitate back. "I have worn perfection long enough." He nodded and rerouted the power flow. The door finally gave way with a violent crash. Smoke poured into the chamber as armed figures stormed inside. Elite nobles, council enforcers, and private guards wearing unmarked armor. Their leader stepped forward, weapon raised. "Your reign ends today," he declared. "The Empire needs stability, not secrets." Zyra faced him calmly, even half-armored, even weakened. "You mistake control for stability," she said. "A common flaw." The attackers opened fire. Human soldiers moved instantly. They did not rush forward. They did not scream battle cries. They formed a living wall around Elias and Zyra, shields raised, bodies positioned with practiced precision. Energy bolts slammed into barriers, throwing sparks and light across the chamber. One human went down, then another, but the line held. Elias worked faster, heart-pounding, hands steady. "Talk to it," he said suddenly. Zyra blinked. "What?" "The armor," Elias said. "It still listens to you. Tell it what you want." She closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she did not command the armor. She did not order it to obey. She spoke to it as one speaks to something trusted. "I am here," she whispered. "I choose." The rebuilt core flared to life. Light rushed across the armor like dawn breaking. Plates locked into place smoothly, without strain, without resistance. The armor felt different, lighter, responsive, alive without being controlling. Zyra inhaled sharply. Strength returned, not the crushing weight of unstoppable power, but something cleaner, sharper. She stepped forward, the attackers froze. The queen moved faster than they expected. Her strike disarmed the leader in a single motion, sending his weapon skidding across the floor. She did not kill him. She did not need to. "Look at me," she said. He did. "I was never weak," she continued. "You simply mistook my restraint for silence." The remaining attackers retreated, some dropping their weapons, others fleeing entirely. Silence slowly returned to the chamber. Smoke cleared. The alarms faded. The guards lowered their weapons, stunned. Elias finally stepped back, exhaustion hitting him all at once. He looked up just in time to see Queen Zyra turn toward him. She studied the new armor, flexing her hand, feeling the smooth response. "You changed it," she said. "Yes," Elias replied, "but you changed with it." She approached him, stopping only a step away. The room held its breath. "You saw what my own people would not let me see," she said quietly, "and you spoke when silence was safer." Elias shrugged slightly. "That's kind of our thing." A strange sound escaped her, soft, unfamiliar. Laughter across the chamber, humans and aliens alike stared in disbelief. Queen Zyra straightened and turned to everyone present. "Today," she announced, "a human reminded this empire what strength truly means, not control, not fear, choice." Her gaze returned to Elias. "And this story," she added, "is not finished." Somewhere deep in the ship, systems stabilized. Across the stars, rumors would spread. The human did not conquer the queen. He freed her. The days after the attack felt unreal to everyone aboard the flagship. The corridors were quieter but not peaceful. Whispers followed every patrol. Doors opened more slowly. The Empire had survived a betrayal, but survival did not mean healing. Queen Zyra stood on the command balcony looking out at the stars. Her armor rested on her body like a second skin, lighter than before, moving with her instead of against her. Every breath felt easier. Every step felt like her own choice. Behind her, the council chamber was full. The High Council of the Viorlian Empire had gathered under emergency order. Nobles, admirals, governors, and elder representatives from allied species filled the circular hall. Some sat in rigid silence. Others whispered angrily. All of them stared at the human standing quietly near the queen. Elias felt their eyes like pressure on his back. He had been given clean clothes, medical care, and a formal escort, but none of that changed what he was. A human technician standing among beings who had ruled the galaxy long before humanity reached the stars. He kept his posture relaxed, hands at his sides, eyes forward. Queen Zyra raised one hand. The chamber fell silent. "You all know why we are here," she said, her voice carried easily, calm and clear. "An attempt was made on my life, not by enemies beyond our borders, but by those within this empire." A ripple moved through the council. "The armor gifted to me at my coronation," she continued, was altered, designed not only to protect, but to restrain, to guide, to limit. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. "This truth was not uncovered by our finest minds," Zyra said. "It was revealed by a human." Murmurs spread louder this time. One elder stood abruptly. "Your Majesty, with respect, humans lack the understanding of our sacred technologies. This accusation is proven," Zyra interrupted, her voice still calm but unyielding. "The rebuilt core functions without hidden commands, without interference, without lies." She turned slightly, allowing the council to see the subtle glow of the new armor, stable and clean. "The difference," she said, "is freedom." Silence fell again, heavier than before. Elias felt his heart beat faster. He had expected anger, maybe punishment. He had not expected this. One of the admirals leaned forward. "If what you say is true, Your Majesty, then our empire has been guided by unseen hands for generations." "Yes," Zyra said. "And that ends now." She stepped down from the balcony and walked slowly around the chamber. The council watched her with a mix of awe and unease. "There will be investigations," she said, "trials, reforms, but change does not stop at punishment." She stopped beside Elias. "Humans," she said, "approach power differently." Every eye turned toward him. "They do not assume control is the same as strength," she continued. "They test systems, question them, break them if needed, and then rebuild." She looked directly at the council. "That mindset saved my life," a counselor scoffed softly, "or endangered it." Zyra turned her gaze to him. "You sit here alive," she said, "because a human stood unarmed before a queen and spoke the truth." The counselor fell silent. Later that cycle, Elias was escorted back to the engineering deck. The human technicians greeted him with quiet relief, some clapping him on the shoulder, others simply nodding with pride. "You okay?" one of them asked. Elias smiled tiredly. "I think so." But rest did not come easily. That night, as the ship entered stable warp, Elias lay awake in his small cabin, staring at the ceiling. His mind replayed the moments again and again. The exposed armor, the alarms, the queen's voice when she chose trust over fear. A soft chime broke the silence. "Elias Ward," came a familiar voice. "Come to the observation deck." His pulse quickened. The observation deck was empty when he arrived. The vast window showed stars stretching into long lines as the ship moved faster than light. Queen Zyra stood alone, hands clasped behind her back. "You asked for me," Elias said respectfully. "Yes," she replied. "I wish to speak without an audience." He waited. "I have ruled through certainty," she said, gazing at the stars. "Every decision calculated. Every risk measured. I believed that was strength." She turned to him. "But certainty can become a prison." Elias nodded slowly. "We learned that too back home." "You were willing to let my armor fail," she said. "Why?" He thought for a moment. "Because systems that never fail never improve. Humans, we break things, sometimes too much, but we learn from it." She studied him closely. "And if I had fallen, then it would have been my failure to carry," he said simply. Something shifted in her expression, not softness. "Respect, there are those who believe humans should be kept close," she said. "Controlled, managed." "And now?" Elias asked. "Now," she said, "I believe humans should be trusted." She stepped closer, not invading his space but closing the distance enough that he felt the weight of her presence again. "I will propose a new doctrine," Zyra said. "Human advisors embedded not as servants but as equals, engineers, strategists, observers." Elias blinked. "That's big." "Yes," she said, "and dangerous." He smiled faintly. "Welcome to our world." The corners of her mouth lifted slightly. In the days that followed, the Empire began to change. Hidden protocols were exposed. Ancient systems were reviewed. Some resisted. Others welcomed the shift. Across shipyards and stations, humans worked beside aliens not to dominate but to question. Not all were pleased. On a distant station, a group of displaced nobles watched the news feeds in silence. "The Queen has chosen chaos," one of them hissed. "No," another replied coldly. "She has chosen humans." Back on the flagship, Elias stood in the engineering bay, guiding a mixed-species team through the redesign of a power network. The work felt familiar, grounding. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt like he belonged. Above him, Queen Zyra watched from the balcony, unseen. Her armor responded smoothly as she moved, no longer whispering commands she did not give. For the first time in her reign, the Empire felt uncertain. And for the first time, she felt free. The flagship arrived at the heart of the Viorlian Empire under heavy watch. Dozens of warships surrounded it, not in threat, but in attention. News had already spread across the stars about the failed coup, the exposed armor, and the human who stood beside the Queen when power itself was questioned. The capital world shone below, a planet of layered cities and ancient towers. For centuries, it had been the symbol of absolute order. Today, it waited. Queen Zyra stood in the central hall of the flagship, her armor fully restored in its new form. It no longer radiated overwhelming force. Instead, it felt focused, calm, alive in harmony with her body. She placed one hand on the railing as the ship descended. Behind her stood Elias. He wore a simple uniform, no symbols of rank, no decorations. He had refused them all. Humans did not need medals to stand firm. "You do not have to be there," Zyra said without turning. "This will not be easy." Elias looked at the world below. "Neither was fixing your armor." She let out a quiet breath. "Very well." The Grand Assembly Hall was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from every major system, allied species, military leaders, and observers crowded the massive chamber. Holographic displays floated in the air, carrying the image of the Queen across the Empire. When Zyra entered, the room fell into absolute silence. She walked alone to the center platform, then she spoke. "For generations, this empire has been built on certainty," she said, "on systems that promised order, safety, and strength." Images appeared, ancient coronations, battles won, borders expanded. "But certainty, when unchallenged, becomes stagnation," she continued. "And stagnation becomes decay." A murmur spread. "The armor I wore was not merely damaged," Zyra said. "It was designed to guide me, to shape my decisions, to limit my choices." Gasps echoed through the hall. "That design was hidden, justified as protection, but protection without consent is control." Her gaze swept the chamber. "A human revealed this truth, not through force, not through rebellion, but through honesty." She raised one hand. Elias stepped forward. The sight of a human standing beside the alien queen sent a visible shock through the assembly. "This is Elias Ward," Zyra said. "He represents a species often dismissed as fragile, impulsive, or insignificant." She paused. "He also represents courage." Elias felt thousands of eyes on him. He did not bow, he did not raise his chin, he simply stood. "Humans do not fear broken systems," Zyra continued. "They question them, they dismantle them, and if needed, they rebuild them better." Her voice grew stronger. "Therefore, I declare the beginning of a new era." The hall erupted in noise, arguments, protests, disbelief. Zyra raised her voice once more, and the sound died instantly. "From this moment forward, the Viorlian Empire will no longer rule through hidden constraints. All core systems, doctrines, and technologies will be reviewed openly. Humans will serve as equal partners in this process." She turned slightly toward Elias. "Not because they are perfect," she said, "but because they are willing to admit when things are not." The declaration shook the galaxy. Some representatives stormed out. Others remained frozen in thought. Across the stars, reactions varied: fear, hope, anger, curiosity. Change had begun. In the weeks that followed, the Empire felt different. Shipyards buzzed with debate. Military doctrines were rewritten. Old traditions were questioned for the first time in centuries. Resistance did not disappear, but it weakened under the weight of transparency. Elias worked constantly, moving between stations, advising teams, listening more than he spoke. Humans did not take control. They asked questions, sometimes uncomfortable ones. That alone changed everything. One cycle, during a rare moment of rest, Elias stood on a quiet balcony overlooking the capital city. The sky glowed with soft light as transport lanes crossed like stars. Queen Zyra joined him. "You could return home," she said. "Earth would welcome you as a hero." Elias smiled faintly. "Heroes make people nervous, engineers just fix stuff." She studied him. "You changed an empire." "No," he replied. "You chose to." She nodded slowly. "In my language," she said, "there is a word for strength earned through trust. It has no direct translation." "What does it mean?" Elias asked. "It means," she said, "power that listens." They stood in silence for a while. Far away, remnants of the old conspirators attempted one final move, a coordinated shutdown of ancient defense networks, hoping to plunge border systems into chaos. They failed. The redesigned systems refused hidden commands. Human logic paths rejected unauthorized overrides. The Empire did not collapse, it adapted. When the final report reached the palace, Zyra closed her eyes briefly. "It is done," she said. Elias nodded. "You're free now." She looked at him carefully. "Freedom is not an ending." "No," he agreed. "It's maintenance." That made her smile. Months later, a monument was raised, not of stone or metal, but of light. It showed no battles, no crowns, only a human and an alien standing side by side, hands not touching but close enough to matter. The inscription was simple: strength is not control, strength is choice. Across the galaxy, other empires watched closely. They did not fear human weapons, they feared human ideas, and humanity, still young among the stars, earned something far more powerful than respect. They earned trust,